Hello and welcome, I'm Kalkidan. My guest today, Kalkidan Miller, a young, vibrant Ethiopian-American college student, decided to spend over 2 months as a volunteer for the grassroots organization, the Abebesh Gobena Children's Care and Development Association. The legendary founder of the institution actually passed away early this month. Well, Kalkidan wants to come back after her college studies and help in rights issues. A very warm welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How long have you been doing this internship? Is it with the Abebesh Gobena orphanage?
Yes, I've been doing it for about 2 months and a half. And so with Abebesh Gobena organization that work on women empowerment, youth, and also on feeding the people, kids that are malnourished.
Malnourished?
Yeah.
Within the city, right?
Yeah, within Addis Ababa.
It started as an orphanage, right, as we all know.
Yes.
And then it's expanded to cover all these areas you just mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah, it started during the drought in the 1980s, and that is when Abebesh Gobena, she was living in Addis Ababa, and while she went back to Wolo for religious reasons, she witnessed all these horrible experiences that a lot of people are having due to the drought. And then she brought in kids. She brought some kids in. And then those kids became now hundreds and thousands of kids, which is amazing, yeah.
So they settled her in her center in Addis Ababa.
Yeah.
They went to school and made it through a number of professions, right?
Yeah, she was like pretty much a single parent. It got to the point she had 11 kids.
Right at the beginning?
Yeah, right at the beginning. And where she was living in a small house, and she was supporting 11 mouths, including 12, including hers, and also while pursuing her education. She obviously got her doctorate.
Honorary doctorate.
Yeah.
So why did you decide to volunteer with her institution? You could have as well ended up in doing volunteer work with, major NGOs and...
Yeah, I did have opportunities to do with the other stuff, but one thing is that you don't see a lot of women, and you don't see a lot of women in power and actually having, because they don't get the opportunity to do so. And I think Abebesh Gobena just had impacted so many lives with little resources that she had, but what she had was compassion and passion for human rights and the rights of children and women, and that is so powerful, I think. And as a woman, I love seeing a woman empowering other women and other people in that way, and I think I don't know. I think she's extraordinary.
Okay, it's interesting that you mentioned passion and compassion. That comes very close to your heart, right?
Yeah.
You're very, very sensitive to those issues.
Yes.
Human rights, women's rights, and all those sorts of issues.
Yes. Yeah, and because they're also personal. As a woman, I experience a lot of discrimination. And also in the U.S., it's pretty much as a black person, I experienced discrimination. So I think those intersectionality of identities make me a lot more sensitive and also like compassionate to other people's experience, because I have an experience of what it feels like to be the outsider. And and Abebesh Gobena is just an amazing person to follow as a footstep.
It's interesting that you raise discrimination in the United States.
Yeah.
In what form I know, it's racial discrimination, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Borders on racism, right? What specifically did you face?
I have had a physical and verbal assault actually happened a year ago now. While I was attending a Black Lives Matter movement vigil, and I was attacked by a white man because he disagreed with what we were standing for. And also just...
You attacked meaning?
Like, he punched me on the face and then punched me.
I read that story that was covered by a journalist in one of the papers there, right?
Yes.
At North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it.
Yeah, so he... and the thing was that he wasn't arrested after he assaulted me. He just got like a traffic ticket. So it's just discrimination like that. If it was a white woman or a white college student that has been punched by anyone else that's not white, they would go to jail, especially if it's a black person, if it's black male. I mean, black people get killed just for driving, and yet we don't. The system within the U.S. doesn't protect Black lives. It's as if like our lives matter when we're dead than when we're alive.
So this particular person didn't go to jail?
He didn't go to jail.
He was not even reprimanded?
No.
Did he come back he came back to you and say sorry, didn't he?
No, so we had a trial, and I did not push for jail because I don't think it is actually effective, because it actually creates a lot of anger. And also, it's just like, as human beings, we don't do very well when we're isolated. So I specifically wanted him to go through racial equity classes and take classes on equity on any level, so he's educated on it. But at the beginning, he was not handcuffed or went to jail, and I did not get an apology from him. And
he didn't want to pursue the case. You actually, at the end of the day, you actually kind of wrote a poem.
Yeah, I wrote a poem, yes.
And tell me about that.
Yeah, that
and read it out in the court, right?
Yeah, I wrote a poem called "An Angry Black Woman." It just derives from my experience of, like, it's always when someone experiences something and then they try to explain it to someone that doesn't experience it, they're always told, well, it's not like this. Well, it's like they always make excuse for the oppressor. And it's always the oppressed that's actually doing more work and actually creating change in the world. And so it's pretty much about, being a Black person, but being also a woman and experiencing all these things, and people telling you not to be angry, not to be frustrated, or not to be angry with the system, the fact that it's not protecting you the way it's supposed to. So that was what the poem is about. And the judge liked it, so she took one that I signed.
Okay.
Yeah.
You remember a few lines from that poem?
Yeah, and I think one of my favorite one was, society seems to forget we are the hidden figures behind its success, which is that women are a huge part of society. We're a huge part of the economy. We're a huge part of the political and historical part of the world, right? And yet we're discriminated against. And
more so when you're a woman of color.
It's in the U.S. more so when you're a woman of color, yes. And for example, I got that line because of Hidden Figures. There's a story about NASA mathematicians, three black NASA engineer mathematician, and they're the reason that we got to the moon. The U.S. got to the moon, right? But we didn't know anything about that until later on into the history. So I think understanding that we're such a huge part of society and our work needs to be acknowledged.
So you're a second-year student. Now you're into the third year, right?
Yeah.
The college in the U.S.
Yes, University of Asheville now.
Now you're going to University of Asheville in North Carolina. So you didn't come out of this experience with that white guy who did what he did to you, as you told us. You didn't come out of that experience angry, revengeful, if you will. No.
Yeah, I angry definitely. Revengeful, yeah. There were a point where I was just like, I should have just pushed for jail and for him to get arrested and get 150 days. But also, I also put a lot of my energy on a hate crime bill that North Carolina lawmakers were working on, which is to expand the scheme of like how many groups are being protected, like sexual orientation and gender and stuff like that, and also making sure that they are required. Whoever is creating a hate crime is required to attend racial equity classes, and also the police is required to actually take data on how many of these cases are being taken. I mean, it has not been successful, but that's where I put all my anger and frustration on. Yeah.
I want to get you back here from that minor but very significant detour of your experience in the United States. So here at Ababesh Gobena's orphanage, is that what it is called today? Orphanage?
Development. It's a child development, association.
Center. So specifically here you were doing what?
So here I'm helping them with, I'm taking photography of all the different parts of the programs within the organizations. And also I'm helping with editing documents and helping kids with their schoolwork, like specifically English. Yeah, so like editing documents that goes on websites and stuff like that.
So you have already uploaded pictures and text and so on that you've been working on.
Yes.
What's impressed you the most from that center?
It's a very organized organization, but also it's such an empowering, and how they're able to, for example, the Women Empowerment Program, they help women with jobs. So they like making injera and stuff like that. They have different kind of stuff. And the injera that they make there, they sell to Sheraton and all these huge hotels. And then they do the profit and put it back into their organization. I don't know. I think that's an amazing way of actually like making sure that the organization keeps up while they're helping people. So I don't know, I think that's brilliant. Yeah.
How about the girls? I mean, are they empowered enough? When how do they feel about themselves?
The kids, I mean.
The kids, in particular, the girls.
The girls. I mean, I think it's different for the women that I've talked to that are on the feeding program. I think they are more grateful that there's something and someone that's actually looking out for their interests, right? That's saying, okay, we understand you are having a difficult time, then we're gonna help you do this and get a job and make sure you're self-sufficient. And I think that in itself is empowering when you're able to take control of your own life. And I think that's what a lot of women that go to Abushgobana and work with the organization get, is they get empowered to be in control of their own lives and what they want to do with it.
And I'm sure there are a lot more needy people that would want to be supported by this. The center itself can afford to, right?
Yeah.
The need is massive.
Yeah, but I think it's just also human nature. We're always like, what about me? What about me? But I think the organization has a system of knowing, actually targeting those groups of people, so like especially like women, like in poverty and families that are took children. I think they did an amazing job of having a lot of adoptions before the adoption was illegal for international, and also of connecting family members with children. So they have a really good system of knowing who needs help and how.
But they need resources, right?
Yes.
Did you find that out, right?
Yeah. I think it's...
Where can you pick some areas that they need to be supported by donors or whatever?
I will say when it comes to funding, it's just like more on the communication part of their organization. That's where I'm working on, which is like writing proposals, writing articles and stuff like that. So I think having more funding to have more people in that area. So for example, if they have a person that works specifically on proposal writing or anything like that, that they would actually have money to pay the person. If that makes sense. Yeah. So just I think I'm not exactly sure on.
But there is a need, the feeding program. You need so much funding into that education program.
Yeah.
And the others too. I mean, while this center provides services such as the ones you just mentioned, it also is engaged in income generation schemes, right?
Yes.
Which kind of supports this project, which is allowed by the Ethiopian government, right?
Yeah, and the Ethiopian government also took one of the schools, and they feed all the students within, because they are from the low income community. So yeah, if they get more funding, they'll be able to expand the organization a lot further and also help a lot more people. But I mean, getting funding for any organization is always difficult, because especially during this time.
You never got the chance to meet with Abushgobana, the founder of this institution. I mean,
no.
Right? She was seriously sick when you landed in Addis.
Yeah.
Joined the institution as a volunteer, as you said, 2.5 months back.
Yeah, I did see her sitting on a chair, but she wasn't well enough for me to be in contact with her. But I, as an activist, but as a also person that is really, I don't know, when I saw her face, I was just like, this is one of the most magical moments of my life, because I'm seeing a person that has changed millions of lives, that has impacted the lives of so many children and women who are marginalized and discriminated against in this country. And then she built this huge organization with her passion, and I think that's so empowering. That's an empowering as a young person to know that I'm not gonna be her, but like I can do similar things. That there is someone that already opened the gates for a woman that's passionate in these kind of social justice issues to work on.
You can't be her. Why? Because that is an enormous feat.
Oh yeah, I mean she
Gigantic one.
I mean, like if all humanity had a fraction of her compassion and passionate and like I don't know, sensitivity, all that stuff, I think the world would be a much better place. She's for sure extraordinary human being, and I would be lucky to have a fraction of have done a fraction of what she has done.
You're talking about her legacy, right?
Yes, yeah.
What is she leaving behind? Because she passed away July 4th.
Yeah.
She leaves behind quite a legacy.
Yeah, and also I've actually...
Alive, while she was alive, she was larger than life, as you just mentioned.
Yeah.
But with her passing on, she lives a monumental legacy, right?
Yeah, yeah. She represents the idea of love and community and equity and equality and what that does to a community and how that is such an impact, that's such a huge part of our humanitarian work. Also, she is a face of a lot of women, for a lot of kids, but also for people of color in general, because we don't have a lot of people that are being really discovered or talked about in the media, and she is one of the most empowering and powerful women, I think, when it comes to human rights. Yeah, I also talk to a lot of women, and they also like we don't have the words to like really describe what she's done and the amount of impact she had had.
So what do you you are at the very end, as we said earlier, at the very end of your volunteer work and internship here at the center. What are you taking back home as you fly back to the U.S. and go to college?
I learned a lot about myself. One thing is that I definitely want to continue work on human rights. I want to get involved in the work that is being done in Ethiopia. I also learned that women are we make a lot of change, and we're capable of making those change because there are people that have done it before us, and all we need is that support and opportunity and encouragement and education to do those things. And I am lucky to have most of those things that I think, one day make an impact on.
One day meaning you coming back again here once you're done with your college studies, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely coming back.
You're talking about the future. What do you want to do if you come back to Ethiopia?
That
would be 2 or 3 years down the line.
Yeah, I definitely want to work on women's rights and children's rights. And so I probably would want to be more involved in a Abelishkona organization or any organization that works specifically on women and children. Because I think it's such an important issue in Ethiopia.
Well, good luck with that, and thank you very much. Kalkidan, was really a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for having me.